So today we're going to talk about Rococo. Now, Rococo is happening towards the end of the Baroque era. Same time, but towards the end. It comes from the name roquelle, which is French for Baroque pebble. It's a negative term that was applied to these works of art at the time. So the type of art that we're going to be talking about with Rococo tends to be smaller, more intimate. They're going to be in homes, the homes for the wealthy. These are going to be for the wealthy, about the wealthy. We're also going to see lots of things like gold gilt, pastel colors. There's the map of Europe, as you can see. Now let's start with Jean-Antoine Watteau, The Pilgrimage to Cythera. This is a fête galante painting. Fête galante literally translates outdoor entertainment. Typically, this is showing aristocrats in an idyllic setting. You can see here that they're in very nice clothing. These are very well-to-do people. Cythera is referring to the place where Aphrodite supposedly rose from the sea and entered land. So in this painting, we have these people who, these well-to-do people who are out on a jaunt, but we don't know if they've just arrived or about to leave. It's one or the other. So what makes this Rococo? Partly it's the style. Now you can obviously see the pastel colors. Also you can see the almost mossy texture of the plants and the grasses. It's like we're using a soft filter on this painting. It's also the theme. It's kind of love. We've got the little putti that are flying about on the left side, and we've got the damaged statue of Venus there on the right side that kind of blends in with the trees over there. Mezzotint refers to half measure. This is typically in regards to liquor. It's also a commedia dell'arte figure. He's kind of a stock character. People would have been very familiar with him. This outfit he's wearing is very typical of this character. And so in this case, he is pining for a lover, and so he is playing his instrument and thinking about her. And we have this subtle reference to a woman with the female statue in the background that's kind of fades into, again, these pastel colors, kind of fuzzy, very much into the love, very much the romantic love. And this drawing by Watteau, Seated Young Woman, this is in trois crayon, or 3 crayon. We have red, black, and white chalk. And this is something that a lot of artists would use, is this trois crayon style. Very nice little details here. Gaussant's signboard. So Edmé Gaussant was an art dealer during this time, a very well-known one, though this doesn't depict his actual shop. This is Watteau's last painting. He painted it in 8 mornings, and then he died not long after from tuberculosis. Originally, this painting would have had an arched top to it, but it was cut down later. We see the portrait of King Louis XIV emerging from the crate on the left-hand side. Now we have Francois Boucher, portrait of Madame de Pompadour. So Boucher was court painter to Madame de Pompadour. She was Louis XV's mistress. She was only mistress to him from 1746 until 1750, so not very long. However, she's a remarkable woman. She actually was able to keep her status despite not having this physical relationship with the king anymore. And so she was really highly regarded as a very educated woman. When we see this, because she is reading a book, you also see that she is writing letters. You can see that her table, we have the open drawer, we've got the pen, the quill into her inkwell. So she's writing, she's corresponding. We see several books actually. We have a whole bookcase in the back, several books throughout the scene here. So she's obviously a very well-read woman. Obviously, a very well-to-do woman. Look at that dress, all of the details, those roses everywhere. Now, the rose is very particular because the roses have to do with Venus. That was considered to be her flower, and so this is particularly associated with Madame de Pompadour because of her beauty. So whenever she is having this portrait painted, it's 1756, so she is no longer technically the king's mistress. However, she is now a lady in waiting to the queen. This is a very important position that she has. And so she has a important position that she's kind of been able to segue into. We also see the little dog at her feet, of course, dog referring to loyalty. Also notice that the clock and the bookshelf, all of that is actually in a mirror. It is being reflected in the mirror there. Here's another Boucher piece. This is Toilet of Venus. Again, very typical of Rococo. With the mythological aspects. Jean-Henri Fragonard, The Swing. This is the stereotypical Rococo piece. Look at how kind of fuzzy, mossy the trees and the ground cover is. Everything is very fuzzy. Also notice that it's all in pastel colors, and of course, the romantic intention. Now, let's pay attention to, we see her in her wonderful pink dress, and we see that she is kicking up one of her legs so that her shoe is flying off, and she's doing that purposefully, because if we follow her gaze, she has her lover is hiding in the bushes in front of her. But look, there is someone who is pushing her on that swing. That is very possibly a bishop, considering his outfit there. So it's that she's got this secret lover that is hiding. And this is emphasized by the statue. If you notice the little statue of the angel has his finger up to his lips, shushing everyone, don't tell. So this is very much a Rococo piece in the pastel colors, the romantic scene that we've got here. This would have been probably in someone's house, possibly their bedroom, these types of things. Jean-Simeon Chardin. This is Soap Bubbles. So this is more on the genre style. So Chardin was a tapissier who was kind of like a preparators at a museum today. He installed the paintings at the French Academy. He does a lot of these genre pieces as kind of moral lessons. And so we have two boys, most likely brothers, the older boy teaching the younger one how to blow bubbles. And again, see all the beautiful reflections and even some of the colors in the bubble itself. So this is Chardin's Back from the Market. So this one's kind of interesting. So obviously the probably the maid has been out. She has purchased the food for the day or maybe the week, and she's tired. She's kind of put down her load. But then you see in the back that another maid has opened the door and there's someone there. And so this one is she's standing there listening to what's going on. So maybe there's some backstory here, what might be happening. The brioche, wonderful little still life with dessert, some fruits, and whatnot. So one thing that is popular at this time is chinoiserie, or Chinese styled items. And so this is a still life featuring some china from China. All right, so this is what in a room you're going to be thinking about when you think about Rococo. Lots of gold gilt. You can see it just everywhere. The other thing is everything is matching. Everything is connecting to one another. So Rococo, we actually have the furniture matching the hardware, and we have all this kind of matchy happening here with the interior design. So Pinal had worked 14 years in St. Petersburg in Russia before coming back to France to work. So again, this is very kind of stereotypical Rococo. We've got white walls, lots of gold gilt. This is gold gilt on stucco for the ornamentation. We've got scrolls, birds, foliage, that type of thing. We also have in this room, there are some Boucher paintings that kind of just adds to it. Claude Michel, but we know him as Clodon. This is Nymph and Satyr carousing. He was very much influenced by the paintings of Boucher and Fragonard. And you can kind of see the mythological aspects, and while we don't have the pastel or the fuzziness of the paintings, we can kind of see the influence in this work. Okay, so now we're going outside of France. So a lot of Rococo we really think of as French. So now we're going to go over to England for a bit. This is William Hogarth, The Orgy, Scene 3 of The Rake's Progress. Okay, so Hogarth began as an engraver, then went into painting, but he does a lot in social and political satire. He likes to talk about values, specifically kind of the middle class values. He also started this new style called serial painting, where he would paint these kind of series of paintings or drawings detailing a whole story. And so this was a popular book from this time, Rake's Progress. And Tom Rakewell, who was the protagonist in the book, had received an inheritance, and he was overindulging in wine and women. So you can see him on the far right, very drunk, and he's surrounded by women and kind of this chaos, lots of drinking, lots of gambling going on. Now, in the whole story in the book, he ends up having a marriage of convenience. He gets arrested for debts and because of his gambling, goes to debtor's prison, and dies in Bedlam, which is London's insane asylum. So it has a very bad end for him, but obviously, again, this is a moral story. So this is kind of when he's in the height of his carousing, we see here. Now you will see in the upper middle, there's a map. And the woman is holding this candle to the map. So the idea is the world is burning. Um, we've got a chamber pot that is spilling on the bottom left. And then we actually have some women who have been identified as strippers in here. So we have all of these things uh, showing the error of his ways. So this is actually an etching, kind of based on the same thing. You can actually see the map and some of the other details a little bit better, I think, in this etching. But this would have been something that they would have done so that they would have had these etchings again to go along with the book. Now let's move to Italy, Canaletto. The Bucentoro at the Molo. And so Canaletto is well known for these vedute or view paintings, specifically of Venice. That was his most popular area. And so these are very detailed oriented and honestly almost like a genre painting in the fact that these are kind of capturing a day in the life. And so in this one, the Doge, remember he's the ruler, is returning on his barge to the Piazza San Marco from Lido, which is the city's island beach, on Ascension Day, which celebrates the marriage of the sea. So we've got the Doge's palace, we've got some of the columns of on the piazza, one with the winged lion, which is the symbol of St. Mark, which is, of course, Venice's patron saint, and then St. Theodore on the other. Again, those are in the background. Johann Fischer von Erlach. This is the facade of the Karlskirche, Church of St. Charles Borromeo in Vienna. This is celebrating the end of the plague in 1713. It is dedicated to a Counter-Reformation saint, St. Charles Borromeo. So we've got these two large columns in front. They are like the column of Trajan, if you remember that. They're also supposed to symbolize the Pillars of Hercules at the Straits of Gibraltar, which is a reference to King Charles the Sixth claim to the throne of Spain. So St. Charles Borromeo was a leading figure during the Counter-Reformation and was responsible for significant reforms in the Catholic Church. And there is the plan of the church itself. You can see some of the decoration in some of the churches here. All right. Giovanni Battista Tiepolo, The Marriage of Frederick Barbarossa. So Tiepolo was a Venetian. He worked in Germany and then in Spain. And so he did these illusionistic pieces on ceilings, on walls. And so in this one, we've got the idea that we are pulling back the curtain onto this scene, the scene of the marriage of Frederick Barbarossa. And what makes this Rococo and not Baroque is we don't have the dramatic lighting. If this was Baroque, we would have had kind of a shaft of light. It would have been a little more dramatic. And we don't really have that. So the idea is more like we're just kind of looking in a window on this setting. And this would have happened, the marriage of Frederick Barbarossa would have happened in the 12th century. So obviously we're looking back in time, though in the garments we're actually talking about pretty contemporary. Also, the figures, they're pretty restrained. They're not that dramatic Baroque element.